Hello guys, welcome back to the session. So this is our second session for microeconomics, and in the last class we covered upon the various topics over here. We covered of the meaning of economics, how it's different from our economy. We also did the differences between the micro and the macroeconomics, and we also talked about positive and normative economics. Okay, so in today's session we'll focus on two major things, which is first is the economic problem and the second is your central problem. Now let us move ahead. Till now, students, in the last session you got to know that scarcity was the major root cause of all the economic problems, right? And again, the economic problem, it simply says that there are three things that we need to keep in mind. First, that we know that our human wants are unlimited, which means it is never ending. One want finishes, the other one arises. So also we know the fact that the resources, whatever kind of resources it be, maybe it will be the financial, natural, physical resource, human resource, all kind of the resources are limited in nature. And the second thing, these resources also have the alternative uses. So ultimately the question arises, what kind of a choice we are making, right? So ultimately this economic problem is nothing but the problem of making the choice, that what kind of a choice we are making amongst these limited scarce resources which has alternative uses and satisfying simultaneously our human wants. Okay, now let us also understand with the flowchart. The left hand side of this economic problem, the arrow says that we know that the wants are unlimited, and of course they differ in importance in the sense, for one the priority will be different, for another priority might be exactly different. And when we talk about the resources, which is a means and not the end to this problem, we know that they are limited and they are scarce. Also they have the alternative uses, and ultimately this economic problem gives rise to the problem of choice. Okay, so that we need to keep in mind three things. Generally these kind of question are asked for 3 marker, right, where you have to explain each of them, each pointer in detail along with the example. Like I gave you the example of milk in the last session. It is used to make various commodities ahead. Also it's a limited resource. So other example could be petrol. It's not only used in the vehicles but also in the engines, in different equipments. However, it's a limited and a scarce resource, and it can also be used in alternative ways. So what kind of a commodity we are using to have petrol being equipped in it? So that's another example that you can use. Also you can always mention the real life examples. That is always recommendable. Okay, now the second part is, students, the central problems of an economy. Now this is one of the most basic problem that every economy faces, right? And all the problems revolve around them. So basically there are of three types. First is what to produce, second how to produce, and the third is for whom to produce. So we will have an elaboration of all these three in detail. So first, if we talk about what to produce, so the question comes into our mind that what kind of a commodity we need to produce, whether we want to go for more of the consumer goods, like you can say rice, wheat, clothing, or do you wish to produce more of the capital goods, like your machines, equipments, right? Also there's a very famous example which we keep reading in our books, the guns and butters. If anyone could relate to this, guns is basically a category of defense good, and butter is basically a category of your bread. Butter is a category of your civil good. So what kind of a good you want to produce? Not only that, but in what quantities is also another question. Clear? So this is one of the basic problem that every economy faces while you want to produce some commodity. Like in this example, we can say that we have two kind of cars. Either we want to produce more of the budget cars for the lower income and the middle income groups, or do we want to have more of the luxurious cars? So that's again a question. So guiding principle, it's very, very important, students. Guiding principle amongst these three categories is always to be understood, which means right economics. Right economics under the guiding principle says that you need to allocate the resources in such a way that it gives you maximum aggregate satisfaction. So whatever good you are producing, it should generate maximum aggregate satisfaction is the right economics, or you can say the guiding principle. This question also, when as per the point of view of CBSE, this your what do we call these central problems, only one is being asked generally for 3 to 4 marks, where you have to give a proper introduction, a proper explanation. Example is always mandatory, no one will ask you, but you have to mention along with the guiding principle. So guiding principle is very, very important while you're mentioning from the examination point of view. Okay, so the second central problem is how to produce. Now once you have decided what kind of a good you are producing, in how many quantities, the second question arises, how are you producing these goods? So majorly it talks about what kind of a technique you are using. So there's always a choice that needs to be made between two categories, that is either you will go for more of the labor or maybe less of the capital, or you can go for producing a commodity where you have more of the capital and less of the labor. We cannot have both of them being taken into account. Like we can't say that we can have more of both labor and capital techniques, both of them. Reason being, again, our resources are limited and scarce. So either if you are going for some textiles, for clothing, you might say that our manual labor is quite efficient enough, so we will have more of the labor intensive techniques and we can keep few capital machineries and we'll go for less of the capital, right? Or on the other hand, if you have let's say, take an example, if you want to manufacture some machineries where more of the AI, artificial intelligence, is used, then you might say that we will go for more of the capital intensive technique and we'll have less of the labor. Generally under the developed nations like US, UK, they have they work on more of the capital intensive techniques. So this is another central problem that we deal with. So again, what is the guiding principle over here? The guiding principle says that adopt that technique which gives you the maximum output with the least minimum cost. So that is the guiding principle that we need to keep in mind. And not only the least minimum cost, but also we need to make sure that our minimum resources are being used, which means there should not be more of the wastage of the resources. So this is the right economics. It says generate maximum output, take that technique which will give you the least minimum cost. Okay, now the third central problem is for whom to produce. So for whom to produce, it's basically concerned with the distribution of income. We know that we have 4 factors of production: land, labor, capital, entrepreneur, and it gives factor income, rent, wages, interest, and profit. So we need to make sure that where is the income actually being distributed. If it is more of the labor intensive, then of course we are paying more of the wages in hand. And if our commodity is such where more of the places are being used, then we say that more of the rent is generated in our this thing commodity while we are producing. So you have to actually see that who is paid, how much is the concern. This is very important because ultimately someone's income is another's expenditure. So whatever kind of the commodity that you are producing, ultimately where is it reaching, to what target population are you focusing on? That is this question, this central problem. Because if we look in the larger perspective, then for whom to produce plays a very, very major role. That whatever kind, if you are producing more of the civil goods, or maybe you are producing more of the consumer goods, then you are satisfying the needs of the poor income, middle income groups when you are searching for the urgent needs of the society. Or do you feel that after COVID happened, we need more of the pharma medicines, we need more of such equipments, more mass needs to be produced. So ultimately whatever kind of a good you are producing, again the right economics says that produce those goods where the ultimate, or you can say the urgent needs of the society are being catered to. Like you can see over here, these are the different example under the ontro. Under capital we have machineries, doctors and engineers under the labor, and suppose the places, the manufacturing tanneries that we have under the category of land. So it entirely depends, because you are occupying some space to generate these products, and who are these people, who are these resources which are helping you out to produce these goods. So again, as I told you earlier, that the guiding principle again says that produce that kind of a product that serves the urgent needs of the society, and it should always be an efficient distribution of income being generated in the economy. Okay, now the next and the last concept that we will cover for today is the opportunity cost. We will not start with the PPC, production possibility curve, because it will take entirely a different session while we are communicating this. So students, let us understand opportunity cost with the help of an example. Let's say that there's first choice that we have, that if we produce rice, it will give us a yield of 5,000 rupees. If we have wheat, it will give us a yield of 4,500, and if we have gram cereals, then it will give us a yield of 4,000. So now the opportunity cost over here says that if we are a rational person, we'll say that of course we'll go for rice, it's giving us the maximum yield, 5,000 rupees. So what is the opportunity cost over here? Opportunity cost is the value of the next best alternative that you are sacrificing or foregoing. So over here, to produce rice, the opportunity cost will be 4,500 yield of producing wheat that we are sacrificing. Let's take another example. Rahul have three kind of job offers for him. Company A gives him 20,000, company B gives him 25, and company C gives him 30,000 rupees. Okay, so being again a rational person, he will say that I'll choose company C where it gives me 30,000 rupees. So what will be the opportunity cost for Rahul for taking the company C? It will of course be company B, where he is sacrificing the next best alternative. So again, how we will be interpret this? It will say that over here, since we know that opportunity cost is 2,500, and how we will write it theoretically, that the opportunity cost will be 25,000 of company B that we are sacrificing, right? So this was the only briefing of the opportunity cost. Now in case students you have any doubts, you may please mention in the comment section. And in the next class, we will be covering upon the PPC, production possibility curve. We will understand what do we mean by it, what are its assumptions, because assumptions are really important. Economics is incomplete entirely without the assumptions. Then we'll focus how does the PPC looks like. With the help of tables and graphs, we'll understand it further, right? So I'll end the session for today, and students, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching the video.